How are we all doing today? As time goes on, and as the years gradually tick by, it's a shame how many tribute videos I've been posting to my channel. Many of which have been for dear relatives and family members, but this is the first one that I can think of that I've really done about somebody that I've never even met. So let me take you back to my childhood, like I do a lot on this channel. Growing up as an only child, in a house that was kind of separated from where the rest of the subdivisions were, I lived on a hill, only child. One of the biggest vices for me was that my parents were always buying me VHS videotapes. I'm sure they figured it was the easiest and best way to really keep me occupied, but when I was a kid, I didn't want any expensive gaming consoles, I didn't want any expensive bikes or skateboards or anything like that. From a very young age, my parents just conditioned me to really like VHS tapes and videotapes. So, Thomas the Tank Engine, Arthur, Clifford, Caillou even. I had every VHS tape of every show. I was always a PBS kid. And one of the series that I had on VHS is one that was never, I don't know if you call mainstream, but it was a bit more niche, you know. And this was, the technical term for this series is Reel Wheels. Now, what in the world was Reel Wheels? Well, I always called it the There Goes videos, and I'm pretty sure that's how 90% of the children who grew up watching these probably knew them, because they were a series of VHS videotapes produced and hosted by a guy named Dave Hood.
Hi kids, I'm Construction Foreman Dave. I'm Firefighter Dave. I'm Pilot Dave.
Who is a former pitchman, radio personality from the West Coast, and in the 90s he struck gold by making this Reel Wheels series, where you'll have VHS tapes with the titles There Goes a Fire Truck, There Goes a Boat, There Goes a Garbage Truck, There Goes a Bus, There Goes a Train. You get the idea. That was how this series was labeled. All of the VHS tapes had the same kind of artwork template where it would look like whatever mode of transportation was being featured was bursting out of the paper on the VHS box. And these were completely on-camera, non-fiction educational videos about how this stuff worked. So, for example, There Goes a Bulldozer was all about how all various construction equipment work and things around a construction site. Dave, for the first few VHS tapes, which were, the very first one was There Goes a Fire Truck. And I feel like it's the biggest one, it's the most popular one, so if anyone was doing any kind of fire education or learning about that stuff when they were a child, you've probably seen There Goes a Fire Truck at some point. It seems to be the big breakout hit. It was the first one of this series, and just seeing the intro of There Goes a Fire Truck, just, the nostalgia just rushes back.
Kids love to play with fire trucks, but have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a real firefighter?
Around the same time, There Goes an Airplane, There Goes a Train, and There Goes a Bulldozer. And then when they finally got to There Goes a Police Car, that's when they introduced the sidekick character of Becky.
I'm Truck Driver Dave.
And I'm Truck Driver Becky.
I'm Engineer Dave. I'm Deputy Dave.
And I'm Deputy Becky.
Join us as we explore all sorts of fun stuff and get in all sorts of trouble.
And for most of the tapes from there on out, up until the newer ones, it was always Dave and Becky, and they were always along for the ride, learning about whatever the topic was. And the number one thing that I always say about this era is that none of these, whether it's the old Thomas stuff, the old Arthur stuff, the Reel Wheels series here, they never talk down to children. Dave and Becky were always intentionally kind of bumbling their way through this series and making mistakes. Dave's iconic catchphrase through all of them was, "I shouldn't have done that.
I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that.
And what's the more?
I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have done that. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I really shouldn't have done that."
So it was a nice, mature, respectful show for children that treated the children watching these on par, on level, with legitimately informational, educational stuff. I mean, an adult can watch this stuff that if you don't know the inner workings of the post office or an ambulance or a motorcycle, an adult could watch this stuff and really feel entertained, like, oh wow, that's really interesting. And a lot of these hold up really well to this day. This is a long-winded way of introducing, even though you already know it from the video title, that I just recently found out that on February 28th of this year, 2026, Dave Hood unfortunately passed away. I've never met Dave Hood, but when someone was a staple of your entire adolescent life, and you have so many warm, heartfelt memories tied to them, you feel like you know them. Like, I grew up with Dave Hood. He was like a phantom father figure over my childhood that would teach me about vehicles and how mechanical stuff worked, all in a very fun way where it never felt like a lecture. It never felt like a classroom. It was entertainment, but it was edutainment. It was really great. And unfortunately, at age 75, it sounds like it was complications from an artery bypass surgery with his heart, which is the same surgery my dad had a few years ago. So, hey, you always got to count your blessings. So there was no way I couldn't do this. And this is not scripted. I am talking off the cuff right now. I'm probably fumbling over all my words. But I had to do a video about Dave Hood because he was a very underrated, unsung child figure. You know, people like Mr. Rogers, LeVar Burton. Dave Hood never really hit that same level unless, you know, your parents were really into gifting us 90s kids with these VHS videotapes. And even, you know, in recent years around the pandemic, I started collecting all of the Real Wheels DVDs, and I was actually showing them in my DVD updates. I actually sent one of them to Dave Hood himself when his website was still active in like 2020. And he replied and he said, "Well, Ken, you know, great job. You have a great voice for talking about this kind of stuff." So, hey, Dave Hood has watched me, and he complimented me in an email. He said, "You have a great voice for talking about this stuff." So that was great. So just to kind of walk you through some of my favorites and some of the standouts, of course, I mentioned There Goes a Fire Truck. There Goes a Boat was a big one I watched a lot when I was a kid. And I remember just Christmas one year, because there was a Hollywood video in Oak Forest, Illinois that I always went to, and they always had a copy of There Goes a Garbage Truck on hand there. And I always rented There Goes a Garbage Truck, but for some reason we never bought it, because I bought a lot of these from like Kmart and Toys R Us back in the day. And I never owned a copy for a while, I eventually did, of There Goes a Garbage Truck. So I was always renting that one from Hollywood Video. So that just became synonymous with Hollywood Video for me. And then I remember one Christmas, so this is probably Christmas 2004, maybe, if I had to just hazard a guess. Wish I had like family photos of this stuff, but yeah, I remember there were 2 VHS tapes wrapped up, Christmas wrapping paper. I go downstairs, open the presents. One of them is There Goes a Garbage Truck. So I got so excited because I finally owned a copy of it for myself. And the other one was Here Comes a Roller Coaster, which that's an interesting one because that one functions less like one of the actual Real Wheels tapes, and it's basically just a commercial for Six Flags Magic Mountain. It's Dave Hood going on all the rides while the video itself is hosted by a kid who is also narrating it. It's kind of a strange one, but for theme park junkies and everything, it's actually a pretty cool video, and it gives you a glimpse at 90s Magic Mountain. So if you're into that kind of thing, that's a pretty cool one.
Take a look at this, Dave. There's 8 totally awesome roller coasters and all kinds of different rides and attractions. This place is simply the best. Want to take a look for yourself?
Yeah.
Around the same time, I remember, and I remember this too, because I was at my grandma Stell's old house, and my mom got this for me, intending for it to be a Christmas gift, but she gave it to me early on in December, because she said, well, what good would this do on Christmas? So my mom actually gave this to me early in December so I could soak in the Christmas vibes for the entire month. And it was There Goes Santa Claus, which, and I remember just seeing that cover. I'm like, what? There's a There Goes Santa Claus, Dave and Becky. And I think by that point I had long stopped believing in Santa Claus, which no one even had to tell me. When I was like 7 or 8, I think I just came to my own senses, and I was like, something doesn't add up here. And I was never crushed about it or anything, but it was around that time she got me There Goes Santa Claus, and I was excited to watch it. And that's a fun, kind of Christmas special. Dave and Becky going to like Santa's workshop and a petting zoo, and they even find opportunities to talk about snow equipment. And there's like a 5-minute section towards the beginning of that where it's almost kind of a clip show thing, but the whole thing doesn't become a clip show, which is nice.
I'm surprised we both weren't arrested in that one. I got him.
Who? Deputy Dave!
You're under arrest.
This is Deputy Becky! This is Deputy Becky! You got the wrong guy! Repeat, you got the wrong guy!
What do you mean the wrong guy? Jeez. I'm sorry.
You bumbling
I'm sorry,
fool.
sir. I'm sorry.
Oh,
It won't happen again.
Well, what about you? You're no angel, you know.
And just the shenanigans of Dave and Becky. And there was another VHS series they put out that the tapes, apparently they did not press that many because they're very hard to find, but they did 2 tapes under the moniker The Adventures of Dave and Becky, which I'm always on the hunt for. If I can pick those up to, add to my childhood VHS collection, I absolutely will. I literally had to go diving through old bins to find these tapes, but I'm so glad I preserved this stuff. At least most of them. There's a couple, like There Goes a Spaceship and There Goes a Police Car that I'm not seeing. But so that was cool. So I'm still definitely on the hunt for those. But then there were some odd ones in there too, like in a collaboration with a different company, and I didn't even learn about this one until like the pandemic, that Dave had done a Here Comes a Marching Band. It's one of these videos, but it's about a marching band. I never knew about that one when I was a kid. He did a video where he was with someone else talking about how to teach Spanish. So there's a lot of different kind of Dave content that he had floating around in the mid to late 90s. And one of the strangest of which came up for me in the pandemic, where browsing around, I was on his website where he had these old pictures of various VHS tapes and videotapes. And some of the ones that were on there, it was a series called That's How They Do It. And there were 3 pictures on there. One was for chocolate, one was for money, and one was for dollies. And I remember, I was like, what is this? And then I looked them up, and there was 1 copy of each of these on eBay that I ended up grabbing. And then I had emailed Dave Hood through his website asking about the dolls one, just because even though that's not really my subject matter, it's definitely something that, it's him, I want to see it. He's doing a thing about dolls, like what? And he ended up posting it on YouTube following my email, so I'm not going to say I saved dolls from becoming lost media. But had I not asked for it, maybe he never would have posted it, so who knows. But these were interesting because I expected them to be like There Goes a Real Wheel series, only about more kind of niche topics like chocolate, money. And I remember watching it, and it's it's more like he's trying to do like a kid's show, almost like he's trying to make like a Bill Nye type show, because I remember popping Chocolate in, and it starts with a theme song.
This is a story that began long ago about Professor Hoodie, a man no children know.
It's a lot cheesier, but something about it is kind of fun, and he's playing a character named Professor Hoodie, and he's got a monkey and a parrot sidekick, and he's got this teleportation device. It's really weird. And Becky shows up in all of these as like a different character. So in Chocolate, Becky just plays a woman who's working for the chocolate factory. In Money, she's a woman who works for the U.S. Mint. And in Dolls, she plays a doll that comes to life. And it's...
Look at this, guys. Dolly looks really happy. Sitting there with her good friend, Professor Hoodie, she'll never be lonely again.
It's really kind of corny, but it's also fun and heartwarming in that 90s sense. And I watched all three of those during the pandemic, and it was the most surreal thing, because I'm just sitting there thinking, it's like I'm discovering a whole part of my childhood that I never knew existed.
Give me the file on George Washington. Woody, get me George Washington. Oh, real funny, guys.
And that was around the same time I was gradually collecting all the DVDs, which I've ripped a lot of these VHS tapes to DVD as well on top of these, because a lot of the DVDs were edited down versions. Like just kind of, There Goes a Bulldozer, I think, was one of the biggest culprits of one that got cut down. Which I don't know why they did that, man. You gotta keep these things as is, preserved. You know, I need unaltered Dave and Becky shenanigans. And, you know, later there was a pretty big gap, and then Dave Hood came back with, like, I don't know if you call it a reboot, but he put 3 out by himself. Becky was no longer involved later. It was There Goes a Bus, There Goes a Tank, and There Goes a Rescue Hero were the latest ones that they did. I'm surprised they never did just There Goes a Car. like some of the, they did Race Car and Police Car, but I'm surprised they didn't do There Goes a Car. There were a couple odd ones thrown in the middle there that were hosted by a different Dave, by a guy named Dave Sidoni, and they were all kind of rural based. So there goes a farm truck, there goes a tractor, and there goes a dump truck. Those were entertaining. I do own those, and I remember having fun with them as a kid. You know, Dave Sidoni brings a younger, more energetic flair, but, you know, he's just not Dave Hood. This is Dave and Becky's series.
Maybe it's up top here. No, not there.
So I just wanted to bring some attention to these and just talk about them and highlight them, because I just don't think Dave Hood ever caught on as the childhood icon that Mr. Rogers or so could have been. And I think he deserved that, because he treated the audience with respect. Everything was very well shot, very well produced. The music in all of these is just like, the most 90s thing. And like, I myself have even parodied, you know, his intro in some of my own videos.
Hey kids, I'm Astronaut Dave.
And I'm Astronaut Becky, but we're not real astronauts.
No, but the real astronauts have agreed to let us pretend for the day so that we can all learn about space travel and the equipment they use in outer space.
Hi kids, I'm Safety Inspector Hardcastle. Well, I'm not really a safety inspector, but the real safety inspectors have agreed to let me pretend for the day. That way we can all learn the ins and outs of home safety.
I'm very thankful to still own all these. I'm thankful to own the DVDs, because even while some episodes are edited, there's bonus features on there, including bloopers.
This is Deputy Becky and Deputy Dave, and we are in pursuit. Thank you. Thank you.
The lights are on. How do I get the lights off?
Honey, turn it off. Turn it off.
No, wait a minute. That's not the way you talk to them. I can't. What? You call me what? What?
Engineer Larry. Larry, how you doing?
How you doing there, Bill?
Dave.
Dave.
You're Larry.
We got you.
Bill? No.
Yeah, you're Bill.
And who's he? Who are they? Those are those kids.
And a live show that Dave Hood did where it was like a Touch a Truck event, and then Dave would host this thing on stage. Just all cool stuff. It's such, you had to be a 90s kid to really just get into this. And that's why I'm so thankful I grew up with these. And, you know, my parents were always just getting me these VHS videotapes. And yeah, the world, I don't know, my world, since learning that Dave Hood passed away a few months ago, it's just like a part of my life, a part of my childhood is gone, you know. Because I lost my grandmother earlier this year in January. Last year I lost my uncle. So it's just weird when time goes by. And it's like pieces of familiarity, the older you get, just start ticking away. And Dave Hood was always an escape from the real world. He was always a VHS tape. I would pop in and I would get absorbed in the world of Reel Wheels. And now it's like the knowledge that he's no longer around. It sucks. And I'm not sure what Becky is up to these days. I know for a brief period in the late 90s, early 2000s, these aired on TV under the title Dream Big. I don't know how many of them got that treatment, but I know some of them did. I would have been curious to see Professor Hoodie take off more, because Chocolate and Money are the only two that got released. Dolls never got released, but thankfully Dave posted it to his YouTube page when I emailed him and asked him about it. And you can visit, Dave Hood does have a YouTube page. It's a lot of, he's posted all of these, but then there's also a lot of miscellaneous, like him filming houses for realtors and him filming bands and kind of miscellaneous videographer for hire type stuff. And yeah, this is just a stream of consciousness. I did not plan this out as like a whole video essay or anything like that, but I had to say some words because Dave Hood was a staple of my childhood, a staple of my life, as I sit here, a 28-year-old, reflecting on it. And, you know, my world has taken a hit. You grew up with them, they become a part of your life, a part of your identity, a part of your childhood, bewonderment and escape, and it's just that realization of, you know, they're not always going to be here, so, and that's why I want to call this video, There Goes a Hero, because Dave Hood really was a hero in my childhood, and Dave, you are missed, and just thank you so much for all of these amazing memories that even now, so more than ever, I will cherish the fact that I got to grow up with you. Thank you.
In history, you may see part of the future.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching and learning all about airplanes. I've had a great time pretending to be a real airplane pilot. So, until next time, this is Pilot Dave saying see you in the wild blue yonder.